It's wonderful to have you here.
Well, thank you.
We are just a couple weeks away from electing Paul Honeman. And of course, to elect him, Paul needs money and our support. And so I saw pretty much everyone do the envelopes and the sign-up sheet. But if you haven't, or after Paul speaks, if you're inspired to give more, this is a very good cause, because everyone in this room knows one thing without a doubt, and that we need a new mayor. Mayor Sullivan is driving this community into the ground. And one of the unfortunate things, and several people, as we've been talking, we wish that the obvious results of what he's been doing were more obvious to more people. They will be more obvious as time goes by. We cannot afford 3 more years of Dan Sullivan. We cannot afford 3 more years of Dan Sullivan. And of course, what is so fabulous is not only do we have a candidate, we have a fabulous candidate.
And you will get up on your toes too.
Maybe I'll be as tall as I am.
I don't know.
I must admit, early on, and I was talking with Elby and a couple others, there was a lot of talk about who should run against Paul, who should run against Dan. And there are a lot of people that thought about it, but one person stood up and said, "I'm doing it. I care so much about this community. I have the experience. I have the passion. I have the guts, because let's face it, Dan has been a somewhat popular mayor, and so it took guts to say, I'm going to stand up, tell everyone in this city what this mayor is doing, and tell everyone why I should be your mayor." And so, the thing I've been so impressed about, not only that Paul stood up and said, "I'm doing this," but that he has run such a wonderful campaign. You have been so articulate. You have been so, engaged. You have been such a wonderful representative of the kind of mayor we need and deserve in the city. And Paul really is the person we need for the next 3 years. It's still not going to be easy. We still have work to do. Let me say a few thank yous, and then the main thing is to have Paul inspire us even more. But let's first thank Michelle for opening up her vehicle.
Yay!
And, Michelle, thank you. And Michelle's wonderful sons for helping out.
Yay!
And the other co-hosts of this event are John Whittleton. John, thank you so much. Yay! Thank you so much.
And Deborah. Yay, Deborah!
Well, anyway, we know Paul, as I said, has the experience, the commitment, the vigor, the brains, and the momentum to win if we all work hard, contribute hard, get out there, get our friends to vote. And so, Paul, it is with great pleasure and enthusiasm that we invite you to say a few words, and thank you again for doing that.
Well, I do want to echo again, thank you again, Michelle, for opening up your home, and all the co-hosts, and thanks for bringing friends, and thanks for bringing the wonderful food. I saw salmon, I saw shrimp. There's these wonderful little chicken curry things in a roll that's really unique and Linda made. If you didn't get any food, please, I'd suggest get some. Go back for seconds, really. Stick it in your pockets if there's something like that.
Please.
It's good for tonight, if not for lunch tomorrow. It's wonderful, so thanks. And Mitchell, I believe it's Mitchell. What a great host. He's greeting us at the driveway and welcoming us in. Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
What's your other son's name? I'm sorry? Dylan? It's my youngest grandson's name. I noticed over here a picture. Are you guys both in Air Force ROTC?
No, that was her dad.
Oh, is that right? Is your dad in that picture? Yeah, I thought maybe both of you in there. I was in our ROTC Air Force in Florida. I came to Alaska and lived out in hospital housing, so finished up at a junior ROTC in the Army program. It was a little different culture shock, but right in there. So I thought I was going to congratulate. Looks like both of you guys are. Well, you're a spitting image of your dad, so. Anyway, you know, realistically, yesterday was the start of early voting at the LUSAC Library and City Hall. And Kaylin Saxon, our office manager, went to the LUSAC. One of our other volunteers went to the City Hall. And the LUSAC Library had a line. There were literally people waiting in line. Now, I think that's a good sign. I think a high turnout helps our campaign. I really believe that. We know that it's been around 60,000 plus or minus getting people out in the last 3 or 4 mayoral election. We were counting on 70,000, boosting up the vote by about 8,000, 9,000 votes coming our way. Prop 5 has certainly, I believe, helped us and should help us. So I urge you to do a couple things. If you're going to be traveling, or if you think that your job's going to keep you busy on Tuesday, April 3rd, try to get to early voting. Actually, the LUSAC will have voting on, they do have through Saturday, but they'll be open Sunday the 1st as well, that weekend before. So they'll be open all the way through. Chugach Senior Center, if you know folks out in that direction, will start next Monday, the 26th. And of course at UAA and at the airport on Election Day. And I guess the LUSAC becomes 2 precincts, they were telling us today, right?
On Election Day.
On Election Day.
Until through Monday, before Election Day, you can vote, anybody can vote at the LUSAC.
So that's a good place to direct people if they're either going to be traveling or if you think they're going to be committed and they can't make it to there. And I do want to recognize a couple of dear friends and colleagues. Of course, I'll start with Ms. Drummond, who's also, Harry Drummond, who represents West Anchorage. Who's the candidate for the open house seat in that section. And hopefully a colleague soon in the legislature, Annie Josephson, also running the house. And he finally brings his lovely bride, Donna. Where's the other? Here back there. So Donna, thank you for being here. And I got to tell you, a superstar in my campaign, a very dear friend, and has really put a lot of effort into it. And we met each other years back in the early 80s and at the People Mover in Transit. But my dear friend and colleague from Midtown, Elvie Ray Jackson. Elvie has just been there, gosh, I mean, we make this little competition on phone calls. She's calling from her list and raising money, and you know, we do this in-your-face thing, and it's really kind of fun. We come back and forth, and so it's been really good, and it's been really helpful. So thank you again, Elvie. I appreciate it. So, I'm going to tell you, you know, you only get a little 3-legged stool I use as the reasons for running, and then we can explain a little more. But simply put, running for Anchorage mayor at this time for 3 primary reasons: to restore the confidence in the public process, which has been subverted under this administration. It's just been totally ignored. Not listening to the people when it comes to budget, when it comes to land use in Title 21, and when it comes to boards and commission. Can you imagine trying to abolish the Anchorage Women's Commission? Yeah. And the excuse he used, which was, there just isn't any women interested in what's going on in the city. I mean, just a bunch of, even Arlo Sturgeon-Lewski came and testified. It was outrageous, the excuse he used. Second reason is to restore the confidence in our budget and finances. If you listen to this guy, he thinks we're broke, and it certainly labor is to blame for all the ills. These long-term contractors, too expensive. And yet we know the truth. The reality is we've had surplus, right, Elvie? We've had surplus. For every year he's been the mayor, in the millions of dollars, nearly $40 million in the bank, and at what expense? Programs and services, such as snow plowing. Anybody notice the snow plowing this year? I mean, hey, we're in a snowbank, having to do a commercial in a snowbank. I couldn't believe it. Hope you've seen the commercial. It's been live. It was a lot of fun. 3 or 4 hours in the snowbank. Thanks, Ivan. Where's Ivan? Ivan's one of the Ivan back there.
He's in the Ivan didn't even have film in the camera.
Yeah, I didn't have film in the camera.
Yeah.
But, and then lastly, just realistically, as we all know, that we do have vital programs and services that we all want to have in our city, our good city that we live in. And we not only pay for them, pay good money, we should not only expect our services and programs, we should demand it. And this mayor is just not listening. So we must do better. We can do better, and I know we have the plan to do just that. So that's in short and sweet and simple terms. That's why I chose to run for mayor at this time, because we all know that we must do better, that this guy's just not getting it done. And if we had to give a grade to the job he's had, if we were in school and had to give a grade, what do you think it'd be? F. There you go. If they had a minus mark in there, probably that too. Yeah. He just isn't listening. He doesn't seem to care. And frankly, I just don't think we can stomach another 3 years. I just hesitate, and just it boggles the mind to think of how bad we could be if another 3 years happens. So here's what we got to do to fix this, to make it right. First of all, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your contribution. If someone that you know couldn't make it tonight, friends, family members, co-workers, neighbors, heck, even if you don't know them and they seem like they're an adult age person that could vote your neighbors, give them a button to go, wear your button with pride. We've got plenty of them back here. We've got some cards that you can hand out, fairly small in size. Get them to the website, paulhoneman.com. They can contribute online. It's a real easy way to do it. Please get them to turn out to the election. If you're going to vote early, grab somebody and take them with you. Invite people to go vote, because frankly this municipal election this time around has been probably the most underreported and undercovered in our media than my recent memory. I mean, I've been here nearly 40 years, and I just don't remember it ever being this quiet on an election season. And about the only thing that gets reported is being buried in the snowbank. And there's been plenty of snow out there to do it, but we're more than just one issue. So I just want to say thank you once again, and I'll take any questions. I started with somebody in the back out there was actually started to ask questions. In fact, we were just talking a little bit. I think is there any questions or comments or anything that you'd like me to know or want to know about our plans for the future? Anything?
Well, just as a South Anchorage voter, I have to say I'm quite irked by his last commercial. I block out his current commercial being Mr. Public Safety, considering that he tried to close my fire station.
Right.
So what's the campaign doing to push back? Because you have been committed since when you were in the military and then as a police officer to community service. What are you guys doing to push back on that incredibly irritating message? But probably a lot of voters don't know what he did to attack our police officers, to go after our firefighters that really are the core service here in the city.
Well, of course, we put everything on our website and Facebook to kind of counter. We show where he says crime is down. There's like 5 or 6 categories minimum that we found from their very own reports that he can't dispute. It's facts. It's out there. That unfortunately, Forbes.com in October of last year listed as the 5th most dangerous city in America to live. And whether or not we like that term or that label, and whether or not we even agree with that, because realistically, how safe you are really determines on how safe you really feel. And if you don't feel safe, you're not. If you feel very safe, you are. But the stats don't lie. They're literally shows us that being in that 5th category, 5th most dangerous. And I wish we could directly correlate, but I believe fairly strongly that we can, that in 2010, when my colleagues and I put money in the budget for an academy for police to restore fire, and what did he do? He vetoed. And then we couldn't get the courage from at least one. I had commitments from 7, and the 7th was contingent that the 8th person join in. And he was able to flip and turn it back around, and we lost that crucial vote that we needed to overturn his veto. And so we had no academy in 2010 like we should have had early on. So he waits until re-election eve, and now all of a sudden we have fire and the police academy, and he goes on the TV and says, I know where to spend your money. And remember, this is in spite of a survey that he paid for, or demanded that we have for a deployment audit, that what does it say? That we should have a minimum of 48 more staff at the police department, and they definitely have the 4 people on each fire engine for the ISI, the insurance industry rating. It says we should have a minimum of 48 and a maximum, what they projected, if you want to do community policing, over 100 new staff at APD. And folks, that's about another $10 million commitment. And he wasn't willing to go forward with it and push it, and we would have stood with him. I know we would have to reach those goals to make sure we're a safer community. So we're highlighting all that. It's on our website, it's on our Facebook, and we're clearly trying to get after it. In fact, just this past weekend, you might have seen we were talking about community patrol, which is a volunteer component. But we talked then, and I went after him on the chin with how he's saying crime rates are down, and they're clearly not in a lot of categories. The most obvious ones are sexual assault and domestic violence. Staggeringly high and shamelessly high, and we can do something about it. He refuses to. In fact, you know what the PERF report says? He wasn't happy with the fact that the PERF report says, it's a police executive research firm, they recommend these increases in staff to do community policing. His secondary request was, if we had to cut by 10 positions, where should we? If we had to cut the police department by 20 positions, where should we? If we had to cut the department by... So instead of... He just ignored what the PERF report was. His own deployment audit was saying, bolster your department, increase the numbers. And you know where they said cut? They suggested, if you've got to cut detectives and cut crimes against children, cut sexual assault detectives. What? I mean, it absolutely boggles the mind how somebody can even think that that would be okay. Not in this community. You know, and it's just, so we are pushing back and we are swinging. And remember, we were very careful not to be seen as just one issue candidate, public safety. That's my strength. I hope people know that, and we are pushing back on that.
Didn't he, I sort of remember he talked, one of his reasonings was the benefits, long-term benefits, that we couldn't afford that. This $10 million, did that include benefits? Or is that just for training and getting up to speed with 100?
Well, that would have been staff all-in cost.
Okay.
You know, that's what it would have cost us. And remember, we were close. Under the Begich administration, they actually had anticipated and go, I know this because I was part of the study, and we suggested 96 new staff. It was really close to the 100 plus. And we were very close. We were within 30 of reaching that number.
So isn't there a way to refute that his reasoning that was the benefits that we couldn't afford it long term?
And that's what he's trying to tell people. But you know, there are two things. That's the reason about restoring confidence in the budget and the finances. You know, we have two categories of two level protections that all taxpayers enjoy. One's the tax cap. Love it or hate it, it's there. It kind of limits the amount of growth every year that goes in. And the second is our charter language, the law that says we have to have a balanced budget amendment, balanced budget. And that means, in reality, that you shouldn't spend more money than you take in, but it should work in reverse. You shouldn't be taking in money that you don't intend to spend. He's very good on the first, asking you for more money. In fact, isn't it ironic? It's a song, isn't it? Isn't it ironic that he's raised our taxes 12.5% since he's been the mayor, $27.5 million, yet we've got a nearly $40 million surplus, and at what expense? Programs, services, departments like police, fire. I mean, they've lost the numbers. And Ellie, you want to say?
I just want to ask you, what would it take to do a flyer, Paul, listing this bad business that he has left this community in for the last 3 years, that situation?
Yeah.
I mean, all of it, the $193,000 insurance money that he took from all of us. You know, that his kids now have 10% interest in the McGinleys that are using that for. What would it take to do a flyer, Paul? What would it take?
We'd have to get with our media experts. I know we've talked about doing a mail piece, and I know that that somewhere came in with just the targeted households that we were looking at and targeting in is about $10,000.
Right.
So
Did you hear that, folks? Did you hear that?
Right.
That's what it'll take, money.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Thank you.
And if you do that piece, and I strongly suggest it's a great idea, and you should do it. One of the things I discovered, and because you know how closely I've been following this Mayor's Education Summit, which is exactly the opposite of what it. Yes, we were on the same day. I looked over at Viewpoint Learning, and right out there on the front page of their website, you can click on and see the whole. When they worked with him on doing the whole community dialogues about the budget. And if you go through point by point and see the conclusions they came to in that, he has ignored most of the information that was given. For one thing, people said absolutely, they're perfectly okay getting taxed to the tax caps as long as they don't lose services.
That's right. That's exactly.
If we're going to lose services, then you go ahead and tax us to the tax cap. Sure. If you want to tax something, you go ahead and tax alcohol. And that's the same thing that came out when he got his homeless, ignored the homeless coalition that's been around forever, and he got his own little group. That was the other thing they said was pay for this by taxing alcohol. He has absolutely refused to tax alcohol. And that's, as a nod to his char buddies. Yes, I don't know.
This is the same mayor that was in a group of Anchorage char folks and was concerned and upset about Patrick Flynn's codifying the downtown liquor stores and bars to have their conditions in code. They had so many that had restrictive conditions under the conditional use requirements, and he had it codified. And the mayor, I couldn't believe my ears. He was encouraging to get a class action lawsuit against the municipality. Here's a guy who's supposed to represent the fiduciary interest of all of us. And because he's so tied in with the liquor industry that he was willing to go so far as to make that statement. So far it hasn't materialized, I haven't seen that. But to even make that statement is pretty foolish and literally irresponsible for our elected.
But people need to know that he doesn't really care what they say. He'll just do all these little things. And it's going to be the same thing with the Education Summit. He's not really care. He doesn't care.
No. I mean, let's face it. He's using the Education Summit as much like a super PAC.
Yes,
he's
exactly.
Got corporate contributions. He's in mailings. He's in the newspaper. He's on TV. He's on the radio as being the education mayor. What has he really done with education? He's never been into the school classrooms that I know of. He does, of course, recognize from time to time a few awarded students. I know
Isn't
they
his wife
haven't
a
one this week.
kindergarten
His wife is, of course, a
Yeah.
kindergarten teacher.
She's not anymore, though.
But let's see what he's really done. He's taken programs like the school resource officers, which is a general government function, up to nearly $3 million, and he shuffled it over to the school district, saying, if you want the cops, you pay for them. And then he turns around and says, look, we've reduced the general government budget, and you guys keep getting increased. You should learn how to cut your budget. Now, you see the irony there? I mean, how ridiculous. And then going one step further, taxes and both the tax bill, the little green card you get, and your actual tax bill, for years. I mean, since the municipality's been the municipality, has always taken care of that through its treasury, because we're the ones that do the milling rates, we're the ones that collect the money, we're the ones that set the bills, and now all of a sudden he's come up with this brainchild that, well, the school district is the beneficiary of some of those tax dollars, they should pick up the expense. And he hands them a bill at our own parks, to be able to use parks in the city. He presents them a bill.
Ski trails.
And the ski trails. And it's just, it
Football
goes
stadium.
on and on. Foolishness. Just foolishness. So, you know, it goes on and on, folks. You know, we talk about how bad a manager he is, and he really is a bad manager of our services. So please spread the word. We're saying it as loudly as we can. And what's it going to take to get the message out farther, faster, louder? It's the worst part of doing this campaign. Got to beg for bucks, dollar for dollars. I've been doing plenty of it. But please, spread the word. You know, you can only go to the same people so many times, and we just keep, you know, look, 50 bucks, 100 bucks. You can only take 500 from anybody. Really. It's limited on how much money you can get. But 50 bucks, 100, it just all counts, because we're trying to get the message out. Right, Ivan?
In 2 weeks.
I think he's gone. He's gone.
Where's Abby?
Do you have people in these different avenues
Abby?
that could, in this flyer that you were talking about, that they could make the statement so that you don't look like the bad guy that's just bumping him on the head all the time.
Right.
But people from the school district that says that they weren't involved, that the teachers had no, you know, that they were excluded. And the police, some of the police people, the management people, we presented him with a plan like he wanted, and he just cut it all.
Right.
I mean, so that then when you come along, you can tie it all together and look like the savior.
Well, and of course we have, and we're working towards that testimonial piece as well. So
Okay.
that's one of the things that we have on our agenda. But for the lack of money, I mean, realistically, that's what it's coming down
put mine
to.
in.
Remember, he came in starting in the fall of 2010, collecting funding from his business owner buddies, and they have contributed pretty greatly to the incumbent. What do we know about incumbency? It's about a 10% chance. 9 out of 10 times incumbents win. But remember, in Alaska and right here in Anchorage, incumbents have been beaten. I mean, think recently, Lisa Murkowski lost in the primary, folks, against a relatively unknown. She had a lot of money in the bank. It took a lot of scrambling to get it together. Mark Begich beat George Wirtz, an incumbent mayor. The first time around, what, by 18 votes? 18 votes.
I'm saying he didn't, I mean, he made the decision in February, a couple months before the election, and he
Sure. And I'll be the first to say I'm not Mark Begich. But
Yeah.
But you're
I know Mark
fired
Begich.
up. I like it, Paul.
And we could
Yes,
do
we
great
can.
things
Well, let
together.
me say, Paul has inspired me to contribute another $100.
All right.
And so,
Yay! Woohoo!
and Suzanne, too. Who
All right.
wants more money than you came in with?
I wish.
Okay?
I wish.
I mean,
Let's get that flyer out.
dig deep. Yeah, let's dig deep.
I think I can do another 50 and then I'll be max.
Right, exactly. Be maxed out. You're already maxed out. Another 25, another 50.
Let's do this, folks.
Let's do it. Let's get the envelopes. Hi, Anita, come on in. Open up your pocketbook.
Just right here in front of everybody. Just open it on up.
Where have you been all my life?
Yeah, we have to get the word out. I mean, wasn't Paul wonderful? I mean,
Yeah.
another envelope. And where's Abby?
You know, I just got to tell you, it's not really about me, and it isn't really about even he. It's about we. What do we want for our government? I know I want good government, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, really, government that works for us, that listens to what we want, what we need, and you know we're paying for it. So we just want someone that's responsive. That's representative government, and I just want good government.
And I'll tell you the other thing, and there was a debate between Paul and Dan at the downtown Rotary a couple weeks ago. And the way that Rotary configures their debate is they get, like 4 or 5 West High students to ask the questions, you know, and they have these fabulous questions. And so they asked all these questions. Here you have the best and brightest youth looking to the future of Alaska. And Paul did brilliantly, and Dan just again and again and again, not in favor of one Alaska, one Anchorage, right? I mean, and they could just see their faces without really he doesn't believe in equality, doesn't believe in global warming, still hotly scientifically disputed was his response with respect to global warming. Their faces declined. They said, how are you going to get more students to vote? Paul went in and said, I go and speak to the classes all the time. Dan Sullivan had nothing. It was clear he has no vision for the future. And when you saw how discouraged these, best and brightest young people were, you thought, we cannot afford to have this person. And, we are about the future. Paul is about the future. So again, grab an envelope. We need to make this happen. What we don't want to have happen is, the day after the election to feel regret. Right?
That's
Right?
That's
Don't
right.
feel regret. Grab an envelope. Let's make this happen.
Thank you.
Paul.
Get out,
Thank
get out, turn around, vote, vote, vote.